Hello and welcome back to the second week of the course. During this week, we will be looking at some additional scholarship on simulation of history through video games, as well as how video games such as Ensemble's Age of Mythology represent aspects of mythology and the ancient world. Like with last week, you will have 4 lectures to watch, including this one. You will also have 6 readings to do, all of which are posted on Elms. These readings include 2 primary source readings from Homer and Ovid, as well as 4 secondary source readings. These include an article by Simon Paris on perspectives on violence in Euripides' Bacchae, an article by Jeremiah McCall on navigating the problem space, the medium of simulation games in the teaching of history, a third article by Annette Vowinkle on past futures from reenactment to simulation of history in computer games, and finally an article by Anne Thomas Wilkins on using visual arts in teaching mythology. In addition to the lectures and these readings, you will also have your regular discussion posts, comments, and reading summaries due. On top of this, due at the end of the week, is your topic proposal assignment. You can read on Elms just exactly what this assignment entails. The assignment reads as follows. Decide which video games you will be interested in looking at for the final paper. You will be analyzing the video game in question to determine how historically accurate the game is, how closely it reflects primary and secondary source interpretations of the past, and what commercial or design factors limit its successful simulation of history. For your proposal, you will need to offer 2 games, a first choice and a second choice. After each of these listings, you need to write a full paragraph, about 200 words, describing why you think this would be a good game for the paper, and which specific historical aspects you intend to analyze, whether it's military, gender, politics, religion, so forth. So as you go about considering which games as your first and second choice, keep in mind what your goal is for this final project. As our readings last week discussed, the construction of history is a very complex affair, not only collecting the facts, but also assembling them in a historical narrative. In other words, when you analyze the video game of your choice for the final paper, not only will you have to look at how accurate the video game represents, simulates, and recreates history, but also why. Why it chooses to focus on some things or leave out other things. What is the motivation behind the designers and the developers in making these decisions? Is it for marketing? Is it to increase playability? What is really going on as these video game designers construct their own historical narratives? In writing your paper, then, you'll have to rely on 3 main avenues of evidence. First, the video game itself. You have to play it, you have to explore its features and its details. Second, primary source evidence from the time period in question, whether that be the ancient world, the medieval era, or a more modern time period. Finally, you'll have to bring in what current historians and scholars are saying about that time period. It'll take all 3 of these types of evidence to have a convincing and a persuasive final paper. There does not have to be any pre-existing scholarship on the game itself, but there does have to be room for a historical discussion. So while games like Skyrim or Dark Souls could probably work if you want to consider influence rather than simulation or accurate representation, other games such as Fortnite or League of Legends probably wouldn't be the best fit for this paper. That's all for this first lecture. As always, if you have questions or concerns about any of these projects or readings, don't hesitate to let me know. I'll see you shortly in the next lecture.